power to offer you a camera that is inexpensive, durable, trustworthy, has the ability to produce the best quality of prints, and can stand the test of time and technology, would you accept? If you would, then I have just handed you a traditional 35mm camera. According to author Vicki Goldberg, photography first burst onto the scene at a moment when time was shifting gears and the earth was shrinking. The steam engine was invented in the late 18th century, which changed the pace of work and travel. Now today, as the world continues to shrink and instant gratification reigns supreme, a new realm of photography has been created, the digital realm. However, without the knowledge of traditional photography, one is merely a finger press on a button instead of an eye with an idea for an image. Even though film photography has been thought of as a lost medium, it is more trustworthy than digital, possesses higher quality and longevity, and contains the knowledge and process needed to create an exceptional digital image. Instant gratification isn't so gratifying when the computer is in control, but when the photographer's hands and mind are the puppet master, anything is possible. I ask you today to reconsider how the digital age is dumbing down our ideas, and pick up a 35mm camera and experience your individuality with each click of the shutter. As professor and photographer Bernard J. Seuss explains, digital photography grew out of the traditional medium. Even though this evolution has occurred to accommodate our busy lifestyles, where are we deterred when our computer crashes, leaving behind no trace of memories and destroys hours of hard work? For those of you who have already thought of this possibility, there's always the hard copy on disc. However, these aren't assured to have an archival quality as long as a traditional print or negative can. According to photographer and writer Carmela Diaz, she explains that an image produced using film is the most accurate and realistic image one can have. Digital prints lack the archival quality that traditional prints, especially black and white, possess. Prints created through the use of the darkroom can last well over 200 years, along with their negatives. A counter-argument is that digital photos can be easily duplicated at any time, which is true for the short term. However, as discussed previously, depending on how the digital image is stored, there is no certainty that computers in the future will be able to easily access them. Does anybody remember the 5¼ inch floppy disk? Along with this point, new digital cameras are released every year, which means the $700 camera you bought this year will be obsolete the next. The traditional 35mm always stands the test of time. Along with the longevity of traditional photography, the entire process is straightforward and all in the hands of the photographer. Instead of plugging a cord into a machine, the traditional photographer measures out the chemicals, places them into trays, and after developing the precious negatives, enlarges them onto a photographic paper according to his or her cropping desires, and then immerses them into the bath of chemicals. Slowly, with much anticipation, the image gradually begins to emerge. A feeling of gratification sweeps over the photographer, whose hands, eyes, and mind created the image hanging to dry. It will never be lost due to lack of memory or a computer being a piece of untrustworthy machinery. The images captured on negatives will never be lost, unlike the possibility of losing a week's worth of memories because a digital camera unexpectedly quit and decided to malfunction. Another important fact is that most large format traditional film cameras do not need batteries. Film is future-proof and sets the standard for permanence because it does not need technology to be viewed. Therefore, the traditional camera user can come home with 15 rolls of negative film from a week-long vacation, every one intact, maybe not each one exactly what was intended, but all there to stay, and to stay for the next 200+ years. Furthermore, the principal difference between digital and film photography is how the image is captured, which in turn relates to its quality. Using the traditional medium, the photographer transfers what their eye is seeing onto a piece of negative film. Explained by the great Ansel Adams, viewing through the lens is made possible by locating a mirror in the path of the light transmitted by the lens, so that the image is diverted to a focusing screen at the top of the camera, which is here. The image is then reflected through a prism to the eye for viewing. When the shutter release is pressed, click, the mirror swings up against the viewing screen and light passes to the film for exposure, which is controlled by a shutter located just in front of the film. It is basically acting as an eye, transferring information to be produced almost as a memory. On the other hand, the digital image is captured using an electronic sensor. Tom Schuneman, professional photographer, explains that this sensor is made up of millions of individual pixels or picture elements that convert light into a 0 or a 1, which is also known as binary code. Each pixel is represented by a number. The color scale of that pixel is determined by the size of the number. Black and white images can be produced by pixels a mere 8 bits in length. The binary code tells us that an 8-bit number represents a decimal number between 0 and 256. Therefore, a black and white image can have 255 shades of gray, where black is 0 and white is 256. Sounds quite confusing, doesn't it? It is also very bothersome that an image that the digital photographer is capturing is not being read in the same manner as an eye. It is being transformed into a number system and then transferred into a computer or similar device that somehow calculates the code and produces the image. The number of pixels in a digital image does not change once it's been created. Therefore, the larger images will have fewer pixels per inch, resulting in loss of detail that will continually degrade the larger the image becomes. In comparison, traditional photography is actually an easy and convenient way to make and store high-resolution images. Even though we do not think of them that way, black and white and color 35mm negative films or slide film contain a lot of image information. Once again, Bernard Suess explains, a good high-resolution scan from a 35mm negative can easily top 70 megabytes. There is no camera on the market that can beat that. In addition, a background in traditional photography will not only allow a digital user to go further and faster in the digital realm, but also be well-versed in the history that was made through the evolution of the camera. Even if you've decided that the digital is the one for you, it is imperative that you understand the basic shooting and darkroom techniques in order to create an acceptable digital image, or even to understand what the computer is doing for that matter. For instance, it is important to understand basic concepts such as depth of field, selective focus, stopping and slowing motion, contrast, and exposure. Along with these concepts, it is also important to learn f-stops, shutter speeds, and ISO. With this knowledge under your belt, it will be easier to fix problems with your digital images, and will also enable you to create a better image the first time instead of taking 50 images of the same thing just because you can. Furthermore, as Mr. Suess explains, it is extremely important to understand the film aesthetic if you're going to be going into visual arts, because even though something can be done, doesn't mean that it should be done. Digital photographers become so entranced by the possibilities of Photoshop or other designer imaging programs, the original image is completely lost. In order to not completely destroy your image by experimental overload, it is important to understand that most of the tools these programs reflect are tools that are used in the darkroom. Thus, the curved dialog box in Photoshop is a complete mystery to someone who has never studied the curves of film. If you have completely thrown the traditional medium in the trash because of the immediacy of digital photography, you should beware. There are times when instantaneous results are counterproductive. Imagine working as a photojournalist and having the photo editor, or even worse, the subject, constantly looking over your shoulder and viewing the images. This could severely impact your point of view and interfere with your ability to capture unposed images. Instead of having high and low points on your contact sheet, everything would be the same. Your worst prints wouldn't be so bad, but your best prints wouldn't be that great either. Part of the beauty, enjoyment, and magic of film photography is the element of surprise created from the combination of chemical reactions of the film, processing, and printing. While immediate results might be beneficial to a commercial photographer or for a mom photographing her son's birthday party, in many cases it is a distraction from photography. It becomes more about the immediacy of seeing than the process of capturing and creating the perfect image. In closing, traditional photography is not dead, it has only evolved. However, even as our world evolves, we do not forget our roots. Traditional photography is the most trustworthy medium in translating an everlasting image. It also possesses higher image quality and is an important teacher of its pupil, digital photography. I encourage you to pick up a 35mm camera rather than a digital. Open your eyes and translate your world through film instead of allowing technological advancement to create the way